he doesn't require any introduction. He is a very well-known otologist all over world. I would like to introduce my another teacher, Dr. C. Ramchandra Rao sir. He is a consultant radiologist in the Bangalore, and he is the person from whom I am still learning lot of things. So I dedicate this lecture to both of my mentors in otology as well as in radiology. This is our team at Vijay ENT Care Center, Bangalore, where I am currently working. So how to learn HRCT temporal bone? Actually, what I'm going to take in my 3 to 4 lecture series is I will be telling you how I learned the radiology of the temporal bone. So if you want to really learn the radiology of the temporal bone, you should visit your radiology center frequently. If you are doing post graduation, it is the best thing to go and sit with your radiologist colleague, because it will be in the same hospital. You need not travel to other places. Once you go in the practice, it becomes very difficult to take out the timings from the OPD and travel to the radiology center. So post graduation is the best period to learn HRCT temporal bone, as both ENT and radiology department will be in the same hospitals and you will be having friends in the each other's departments. So you have to go and see first how the scan is actually been taken, how they take HRCT temporal bone. You should go and see with your radiology colleague, and you should ask them why this has been positioned like this, how they take everything. You should see. Then you have to sit next to the radiologist and learn how to handle radiology software. See, many times what happens, I am taking lecture here or some other person is taking lecture on HRCT temporal bone, and now we have learned quite a lot of things regarding temporal bone. So when we'll be explaining, it looks very nice. It looks very nice on mobile. It looks very nice on laptop. But what happens immediately next day, when you try to do these things at home, you will not know how to handle the radiology software, and then you will lose interest. You will get CD, you will arrange everything, but once you open the radiology software, you will be clueless how to use that, so that you can lose interest in that. So you have to sit with your radiologist colleagues and you have to learn the how to handle radiology softwares also. So you can download Osirex or Horus for the Mac, or you can use Radiant Dicom Viewer for the Windows. You have to ask CD of each and every scan, even if you are doing for otosclerosis or you are doing for cholesteatoma, or just you don't know the pathology of the temporal bone, still you are doing the scan. Like in normal cases, sometimes you suspect some pathology and do the scan, but scan comes normal. In those cases also, you should ask for the CD. Why to ask CD for all these scans? Once you get the normal anatomy of the temporal bone and radiology of the temporal bone, it's very easy to identify the disease in the temporal bone. So what you need to do before seeing the films and radiologist report, you should go through the CD and try to write down the abnormal or pathological findings. Once you have written your findings, you open the report of radiologist and you correlate whether they have reported or not. Sometimes it's possible that you will miss lot of things. Sometimes it may possible that 1 or 2 things radiologist will miss. So you have to correlate both the reports without seeing radiologist report on the first hand. Then suppose if you are not understanding anything or radiologist has reported something and you are not able to see those structures in the given scan or CD, you should go back to your radiologist, sit with them, show them that report that you have reported is like that. I'm not able to understand. You just show me. So they will show you. So like that you can learn from each other, and practice makes everyone perfect. So there should be always communication between ENT surgeon and radiologist. You should provide them otological information, then they will give you radiological information. Still, if you have doubt, then again provide them otological information, they will give you radiology info. Like this, many times you have to do this unless you become yourself perfect. So aim of this lecture is to inspire the participants to learn about HRCT of temporal bone. Everyone should be master the temporal bone and to learn to pick up important points which can help us to improve our surgeries. So as I told you, I'll be telling you the story how I learned the HRCT temporal bone. So no one can teach the radiology of the temporal bone. Only the way how to read can be taught. So I'll be teaching you the way of reading the HRCT temporal bone. Unless you use laptop yourself and see the scans in the CD forms from top to bottom, nothing can be learned, as HRCT is a photographic memory. It's on you whether you want it short term or long term. Short term means today I'm showing you some structures you will remember till midnight. Tomorrow morning again you will forget. How to convert it in long term photographic memory? Tomorrow again you start, you take CD, you download the software, you see yourself those structures, you keep seeing for a few days, you keep comparing with the films which you get with the patients in the department. That can form the long term memory. So it's on ourselves whether you want short term memory through this lecture or long term memory. If you want long term memory, you have to follow that. You have to use your laptop and you should see the CD of the scan. Then one should imagine 3D anatomy of the temporal bone while looking at the scan. First, in the beginning, if you want to correlate structures in the radiology scan, what you can use the dry temporal bones, which are easily available in the departments, as it as the educational academies. Everywhere dry temporal bones will be available. Those temporal bones you can bring with you and you can correlate how it is looking in the HRCT temporal bone. Or nowadays lot of websites are also there where you can use 3D models in the initial days of learning. Then temporal bone anatomy itself is a very complex. It is the complex bone in the body. So it's a very difficult to understand radiology of it. First of all, anatomy is very difficult, and then you want to see it radiologically. That's why it becomes difficult, as its anatomy is also very complex. And what makes it more complex is the plane of surgery. See, when we operate on the ear, we operate in the sagittal plane. We'll be going from lateral to medial. We operate in the sagittal plane. But what scans we are doing, we do in axial cuts. So the scan of radiology, the plane of radiology and plane of surgery doesn't correlate with each other. That is the problem. Why HRCT temporal bone looks so difficult. First thing is anatomy is difficult. Second thing is radiology is difficult. And third thing is plane of the surgery is not correlating with what the scan we are looking at. We look scans in the axial cuts or sometimes in coronal cuts, but we operate in the sagittal plane. That's why it's very difficult to understand. So I'll start with some basics of HRCT temporal bone. If you are going to get HRCT temporal bone for any ear pathology or otology pathology, the cut thickness, or rather you should call it as thinness, it should be at least 0.6 to 5 mm cuts. If you do 1 mm, 2 mm cuts, then most of the, like CTPNS, 1 mm is fine. But for HRCT temporal bone, it should be at least 0.6 to 5 mm. That is 0.65 mm in the thickness, so that you will not miss any important findings. So HRCT temporal bones are taken in axial cuts, then reformatted in coronal, sagittal, and some reconstructions are done depending on what you are looking at. If you are looking at the ossicular chain, then maximum intensity projection will be used to reformat the middle ear and inner ear structures, and some special techniques. Special technique means use of contrast dyes and if MRI if indicated. So what is our protocol? We always discuss the case with radiologists. See, radiologists, they need to see the scan of entire body starting from the head till our great toe. So many structures are there. For them, our ear part is a very small part, and actually it is complicated for them also because of being very small structure. So in daily, they will be doing scans of lot of various structures like liver, abdomen, pelvis, then lower limb, joint, so many things they will be doing. So for them, ear part is very complicated and it's a very small structure. So it's our responsibility. If you are suspecting something specifically, don't just write down HRCT temporal bone and send to your radiologist colleague. he should know why you are sent to him. Suppose if you are not providing him any information, he will do scan and he will see everything is normal, he will report it normal. Okay, but that case was of otosclerosis. If you have told your radiologist colleague that you are suspecting the otosclerosis, he would have made even thinner cuts and would have focused more on the fistula antifenestra site, so that he would have not missed the otosclerosis case. So like this, you have to give feedback to the radiologist colleague. You have to give the information as well as feedback. Feedback means what? Suppose your radiologist colleague has told that tegment plate is thinned out, but I don't see any dehiscences in the tegment plate. But during surgery, you found out tegment plate dehiscent. Then you should give feedback. No, I saw in the surgery that tegment plate or dehiscence. Then he can again correlate whether there were any areas of the focal dehiscences. That can prevent your under-reporting or over-reporting. Okay. Over-reporting means what? Suppose if you are sending patient of glue ear or otitis media with effusion to the radiologist. Now you know if otitis media of effusion is involving the mastoid air cell system, and if mastoid air cell system is patent, whole mastoid will get filled up with this effusion fluid. So if they do the scan HRCT temporal bone, everything will be filled up with the soft tissue. It will give soft tissue density in the entire mastoid cavity. And if you have not told your radiologist colleague that you have seen the fluid in the middle ear through the tympanic membrane, they may misdiagnose that in terms of cholesteatoma, and then they will advise the MRI of the temporal bone, over which also there will be hyperintense shadows on the T2. So you should tell your radiologist colleague what you are seeing endoscopically, so that they can prevent their under-reporting or over-reporting. Under-reporting means what? Like sometimes they miss the otosclerosis, because otosclerosis is very difficult to diagnose if it is a very small focus. If it is obvious focus, anyway they will find it out. So whenever some case comes to us, we have to decide what imaging modality to use for that particular case, because it varies from person to person and pathology to pathology. So first question comes in mind, whether imaging is really necessary. Second is, almost all cases we do HRCT temporal bone, then when to use contrast. Then you should know when to do MRI and when to do MRI with contrast, and when to use special type of reconstruction techniques or MR sequences. And then the Tesla MRI, how much it should be, either 1.5 or you want specifically very 3 Tesla MRI, whether it is essential or not. So we'll see whether imaging is really necessary or not. Suppose if you have doubt about some case, you are not able to understand in the first hand only whether you should do scan or not, I will advise better not to do for some weeks, like 1 week, 10 days or 15 days. Once a doubt comes to your mind that scan is required or not, better to avoid during scan at that stage. You can repeat it or you can do it after 1 week or 2 weeks. Like acute onset cases, suppose patient is complaining of severe earache, you are seeing the bulging out tympanic membrane, you are suspecting AOM, then there is no need of doing scan, because you know if you give medical line of treatment, AOM is going to resolve. But again, you should keep in mind that there should not be any impending or presented complications. Like take a case of AOM only. AOM patient is presented with fever and earache only. So you will give medical line of treatment and observe that patient. But suppose at the time of presentation, patient has developed facial nerve palsy, then you will think in terms of doing radiological imaging to see whether any horizontal segment is dehiscence or what. That also depends. If it is a very mild facial palsy and you think that it may resolve once the fluid is getting clear or pus gets clear from the middle ear, then you will think that I will do scan 10 days. Depending on that, you have to take a call. Then you should know when to do exactly the scan. You should judge the weightage between the imaging and patient generalized condition. Suppose patient is bedridden and the patient is complaining of some vertigo problem, old age, and it is a very chronic problem, then though you are suspecting some CP angle lesion, it's not a good thing to send that patient for MRI or CT scan of the temporal bone, because patient is not able to walk also. How they will go to the radiology center, wait there, get scan done, then again come back to you to show the scans. So you should judge the weightage between imaging and patient generalized condition. Once patient generalized condition stabilize, that time you can get the scan done. And I told you, if doubt comes to your mind, better to avoid scan, do it next time when you review the patient. Then recent onset effusion, as I told you, it may create false sense of extensive soft tissue in the temporal bone. So recent onset effusion also, if it is not going to lead to any complications, better to give medical line of treatment and wait for some time. Then suppose there is a granulation tissue in the external auditory canal or over the tympanic membrane, and which can be resolved with the medical line of management and is not associated with much of the hearing loss and not as well the cholesteatoma, then you can avoid the scan. You can just take a call whether you want it or not. An active infection, sometimes there will be profuse discharge, continuously discharging here. In that case, you can postpone the scan unless the discharge or infection comes down. But except the cases of osteomyelitis scalpes, because you know osteomyelitis scalpes will be the deep infection. So there is no point in waiting to do the scan. You have to do the scan at the time of presentation itself, so that you will know the exact extent of the disease. So almost all the cases, and you can ask for complementary HRCT cuts if you have good relations with the radiology center. When you are getting MRI done, MRI with contrast done for some things, you can ask them to give complementary CT films also to correlate the findings of MRI and CT scan. Why I said complementary CT is required in MRI? Because see, you are going to operate over the bone, not on the soft tissue. You have to reach your soft tissue by drilling through the bone. To know the bone anatomy, you should always have CT scan whenever you do MRI and whenever you are thinking in terms of active surgical intervention. Then when you will do the contrast in the HRCT, so suppose if you are suspecting any vascular lesions like paragangliomas or hemangiomas, then in those cases you should ask for contrast enhanced HRCT. If there are any complications like meningitis, lateral sinus thrombosis or otological abscess, that time also you can advise contrast enhanced HRCT. And of course, in the case of osteomyelitis scalpes, to see the involvement in terms of granulation tissue extension. So when to do MRI? When you will do MRI? When you are looking for the structures which cannot be specifically evaluated on the HRCT. See, facial nerve lesions like schwannoma or tumors of the facial nerve, if you want to evaluate perfectly, you will not able to see it properly on the HRCT. What we see in the HRCT temporal bone is the facial nerve canal. Okay, so inside the facial nerve canal will be the facial nerve itself. So if some lesion is arising from the facial nerve, you have to get a MRI also done to rule out any facial nerve schwannoma or tumor. Okay, but in case of post-traumatic facial nerve palsy, what is the involved thing? Though there is the involvement of the facial nerve around the geniculate ganglion area, the affected part is the facial nerve canal actually. The small bony spicules, organized hematoma, everything will sit around this geniculate ganglion area and it may cause compression. So in that case, you will advise the HRCT of the temporal bone. Means you have to think which structure you want to see. If you want to see the bony structures, will do HRCT. If you want some soft tissue which are not very clearly seen on the HRCT, you will do MRI. Then inner ear for hearing rehabilitation, if you are thinking like cochlear implant, Then you have to see the caliber of the cochlear nerve. In those cases, you have to do MRI of the temporal bone. If you want to see membranous labyrinth, you have to do MRI. Bony labyrinth will be seen on HRCT. Cerebellopontine angle is devoid of any of the bone, so HRCT temporal bone will not help you much in that region if lesion is small. And then lesion which can be diagnosed only on the MRI, like cholesterol granuloma. You do the T1 sequence, it will give you hyperintense shadow. It is the cholesterol granuloma, which can be easily diagnosed and picked up by MRI, or cholestatomas using the diffusion weighted imaging. Then what are the special reconstructions of HRCT and sequences of MRI are required? So HRCT special reconstructions, generally, if you are operating for any case, the things we look, first importance we give to the disease clearance, then hearing improvement. To see for hearing improvement, you need to see ossicles very properly. So there is special type of reconstruction for ossicles which can be done. You can do reconstruction of the facial nerve canal, cochlea, inner ear, semicircular canals. Then in MRI, which sequences to use and when, like non-echoplanar DWI imaging is required if you are not able to diagnose cholestatoma. This non-echoplanar DWI imaging can pick up cholestatoma up to size of 2 mm also. Then CIS sequences, these are highly T2 weighted images. If you want to see the cranial nerves at the junction of the brainstem and cerebellopontine angle, you can see using CIS sequences. And fat suppression, when to use, suppose it is a post-operative cavity which you have obliterated with the abdominal fat, and fat can give rise to abnormal soft tissue in the MRI. That time you can use the fat suppressed sequences so that the fat will get removed from the particular sequence. So how to read HRCT temporal bone? First, you have to expertise the normal scan, then only you can diagnose the disease. Once you know the normal, then only you can identify the disease. If you don't know the normal things only, it's next to impossible to identify the disease. So these are some useful basics. The axial cuts are taken 30 degrees to the anthropological plane. So what is anthropological plane? It passes from the superior border of the external-auditory canal and from the infra-orbital line. So this plane is generally used as an anthropological plane, and scan will be 30 degree to this plane. Why it is taken 30 degree to this plane? It will pass through the lateral semicircular canal and all the ear structures will be seen in their normal morphological forms if you take scan in this particular plane. Slight variation is okay, it will not cause much distortion, but if you suddenly take it like more than 60 degree or minus 30 degree, then definitely it will cause a distortion of the images. Means distortion means what? That the images will not look like the normal anatomical form. You will mistake it as some anomaly is there. That's why you have to maintain the plane of the scan. So see, we know stapes is an arch-like structure. If you take scan in this plane, it will look like arch. Suppose if you do some other reconstruction, if you take other types of plane, stapes may not look like arch in this particular scan. Then you will get confused whether it is an anomaly or it is because of the orientation of the scan. So the plane is of the scan is very important, and later it can be reformatted into coronal cuts and the sagittal cuts. So the coronal cut will be the perpendicular plane to this axial cuts. So it will go like this. This is the plane of the axial scan, which is 30 degree to the anthropological plane. So this is the axial plane, and then coronal plane is the 90 degree to this plane. So normal scan, whenever you are looking, almost you can say almost 100%, whatever is your left hand is the right temporal bone of the patient, and vice versa. Whatever is the left is the right temporal bone of the patient. Whatever is at your right hand is the left temporal bone of the patient. Why it is like that? Because the scan is seen from the foot end of the patient. Still, I advise you, I have seen many, sometimes the scans are printed in the reverse directions. So you should always look L and R symbol whenever you are looking at particular scan. But almost all the time, you can say 99% time, they will be printed like in this convention only, which is worldwide accepted. That is, whatever is our left hand is the right temporal bone, and whatever is at the right hand is the left temporal bone. As I told you, because we are seeing scans from the foot end of the patient. So how, see this, this is your CT machine. Patient is lying supine like this. So patient's right side will become our left hand, and patient's left side will become our right hand, and you are seeing scan from foot end of the patients. That's why this right and left get flipped. That's why this side will be right temporal bone of the patient, the left side, and our right hand will be patient's left temporal bone. So this convention is followed all over worldwide, but still you should just look when you are seeing the scan, it will be written over these edges. I'll tell you once I open the scan, left and right will be annotated there. So just check it once. Otherwise, you can take it for most of the cases. Left side is the right temporal bone, right side is the left temporal bone. So these are some X-ray radiation dose reports which will be provided in CD, which will mention how much was the CT accumulated dose data, how much events they did to take particular scan. So here you can see the CT dose strength length product was 755 mcg. Then you can see how much was the exposure time. It was 2.5 seconds. How much was the scanning length? Like it was 25 centimeter, that is 250 mm. So all this, then you can see what type of machine is used. Here it was when, as I told you, you can see here Brightspeed, it is of GE Engineering Company. So it's mentioned here which machine was used, device observer, model name, and manufacturer's name. So these are some details will be there. Then, as I told you, first thing you have to see these innovations, right and left. Most of the time, you can say 99.99% times it will be like this. But suppose if your radiologist colleague wants to screw you in some cases and they flip this, then it can create problem. So as I told you, whatever is towards right, this thing left hand, it is the right temporal bone, and whatever towards the right hand, it is the left temporal bone. Now this is the left temporal bone, because the right temporal bone will be in another cuts. Okay, so here you can see patient's information, diagnostic center name. Then two important things are there in this. If you see at this corner, you can see the WL and WW sign. So WL is nothing but window level, and WW means window width. So for layman or for ENT purpose, you can call WW as brightness and WL as contrast of the scan. It has to be in some specific window settings only, then only your scan will be more informative to you. Or else if you keep it in some different setting, it is the possibility that you may miss the structures, or you will not be able to see the scan properly. Then here you can see the T means thickness, it's 0.6 mm. So I told you, you should know how to use the radiology softwares. So as I have been given long lecture series, I will like to mention about few things about the radiology softwares also, because it should not happen again. If you don't know how to use the radiology software, then again you may not be able to see in the CD. So what you have to do, you have to download the radiology softwares. What I told you, OCRX is paid version. Horos you can download in the Apple MacBooks at free of cost. Radiant DICOM viewer you can get trial period, or you can purchase it. It is not that much costly. You have to install it. If you want, you keep using trial versions. In trial versions, they will give note here that this is the trial version, and it will be creating this thing. Some area of the temporal bone will be covered with that note which comes in the trial version. If you purchase it, that note will not be coming. You will be able to see whole temporal bone. And then functioning, you have to learn how the radiology software works. So as I told you, I'll show you how these radiology softwares work. So what you can do, currently I'm using Radiant DICOM viewer. I have paid version of that. So whenever you get CD of the scan, inside CD you will get always one folder. It will be named as DICOM. Or else if it is named like A, B, or some centers C, some single letter they will denote, or they will denote that folder as DICOM. If it is denoted like A, B, or C, you can just open, and inside you can see whether that extension file is .dcm, that is called DICOM files. So like this, different series will be there, and if you see here, all these are DICOM files which will not be opened with any software like Photos or your Microsoft Photo Viewer will not be able to open these files. You will require the radiological softwares for that. So I told you, see, I right click, it's shown open with Radiant DICOM viewer. I'm opening it. So this is the Radiant DICOM viewer. So this is the Radiant DICOM viewer. I will just tell you how to use it. So here you can see, this is the open. You can open the DICOM folder, how I opened just now. If you want to add CD, you can use this second. This second option is for CD. You have to insert CD in ROM and just click this. It will download whatever CD is there. Then if you want to split your screen, you can split like this. You have to select. Now I am selecting 2. So suppose if I want to see the right temporal bone as well as left temporal bone. So what you need to do, you have to just bring this right temporal bone here and leave it. Bring this left temporal bone here and leave it. Both the temporal bone you can see simultaneously. If you don't want, you can close one. So this is like you can split the screens in multiple. How much you want, you can split. Then this is the annotations. If you on it, you will be able to see the details about the patient. There is the option of hide patient data. Now I hidden the patient data. If you remove that, you will be able to see the patient's detail. Then this is the most important thing in any software, to adjust the image window. If you open this, you can see default window. So what is our default window? Here the window level is 100 and window width is 2000. This is the default window given. You can change it to CT abdomen. You can change it to CT angio. You can change it to CT bone. You can change it to CT brain, whatever you want. But as I told you, if you want to see the scan properly, you should adjust the window so that you should see all the structures properly. So generally, we keep the window level at 500 and window width as 4500. That is more than 4000. Means brightness more than 4500 and contrast at 500 in layman terms. So like this, you can go up and down in the scan. If you use up and down, you can see this cursor is moving on this side. You can move it manually also. Next is this pan image. Pan image means if you select this, you'll be able to move scan anywhere on the screen. Okay. So this is for window and this is for pan image. This is for zoom. You can zoom out. You can zoom in, you can zoom out. Next important thing is this measurement. If you select here, you can measure the length. To measure the length, you can draw a line like this. You can measure total entire length of temporal bone. It is 6.2 centimeter. From here it is 4.5 centimeter. If you want to measure length, how much you have to drill while doing mastectomy, from here to antrum, it's almost 1.2 centimeter you have to drill. Like this, you can use this function for measurement. If you want to measure length of internal auditory matters, you can roughly measure it's 1 centimeter, like that. Then another function comes here, it's eclipse. This eclipse is mainly used to see the Hounsfield unit of particular soft tissue. So if you draw eclipse, suppose now this is air, if you draw eclipse in the air, whatever mean value comes, this minus 939 is Hounsfield unit of this particular tissue in the HRCT temporal bone. Now as we know, air has the Hounsfield unit of minus 1000, so it is showing correctly here. While soft tissue like this sigmoid sinus, it is showing 59. Then some other soft tissue is there. If it is too small, it will not be that much reliable because it will get hampered from the surrounding black and white areas. So structure is big, that is more reliable. So this Hounsfield unit you can see if you have CD of the scan using this eclipse function. Then there are some image filters are also there. Suppose you are feeling your scan is too blur, it is not much sharp, then you can go to image filter, you can sharpen your scan. Okay, it will become little more sharp. If you want more, you can sharpen it more. If you want more, you can sharpen it more. So it is more sharp now. Suppose if you feel it is too much sharp, you can smooth the scan. There are options of smooth 1, 2, 3, like that. You can smooth your scan. Next is a transformation. Transformation means suppose if you want to rotate your plane by 90 degree to counterclockwise or clockwise, you can rotate. You can rotate by 180 degree. You can flip it horizontally. If I flip it, see it is flipped now. Still it is right temporal bone. It is not like that I flipped it means it became left temporal bone. I told you why, because if you see these innovations, now left side is this and this is the right side. So this is still right temporal bone, though we have flipped it. Okay, so this is the default what it has been given, that is this is the right temporal bone. So R is here and L is here. Though you will flip it, it will flip like this. So this will become your right temporal bone only. It is not like that you have flipped means it is left temporal bone. Then this is, if you want to record and send your colleague this, you can just record it in whole thing and you can send to your colleague for review. Then next more important thing is this multiplanar reconstruction. If you see options here, you can see here the option of coronal is there, means this axial scan will become coronal. If you do, if you select the coronal plane, if you select the sagittal plane, it will become sagittal. Okay. And if you select 3D MPR, that is 3D multiplanar reconstructive planes, so all the things will get opened together. Axial, sagittal, coronal, everything is all together. Why this is important? Because if you are seeing particular structure, suppose now I am seeing the carotid canal, carotid artery I am seeing here, so you can correlate it with the coronal cut, how it looks in the coronal cut. You can correlate in the sagittal cut also, how it looks in the sagittal cuts. Suppose I am looking at the sigmoid sinus, you can see in the coronal cut how sigmoid sinus look. Here also you can see. So this is also very important, multiplanar reconstruction. And this CD volume rendering is used in some of the head and neck surgeries. We don't use much in otology. you want to do 3D printing, you can use this technique of 3D volume rendering like this if you want to do some 3D printing or something. So these are the few functions of this radiant DICOM viewer, and I told you how to use it because we are going to basics of HRCT temporal bone. I thought I should cover this also. So Hounsfield unit, we should know this. Generally bone will be denser, like from 500 to 1900 if it is cortical bone. If it is cancellous bone, it will be less, like 300 to 400. Then if it is active blood flow, like unclotted blood, it will be around 13 to 50. Clotted blood will be more denser, like 50 to 75. Water is at always 0. CSF is little bit more than water. Abscess also can vary from 0 to 15, 45. Then if any metals or torp or porp are inserted and you want to know whether it is a bone or it is a metal, then you can do this Hounsfield unit over the metal. It will be quite high, sometimes maybe up to 30,000 also. While bone we see cortical, it will not be much. It will be from 500 to 1900. Then granulation tissue is 60 to 100. Cholesteatoma is 20 to 60. Cholesterol granuloma is around 50. Tympanosclerosis more than 200. So this I have written roughly here because whatever scans I came across, I just tried to find out how much it comes. These values, these last 4 values I have written on myself. It is not given in any book. It is just approximately I written. Rest of the values you will get in any radiology book also. But this last 4, I just gone through the scans and I just roughly calculated that those corresponds to like this. So this has finished first part of my lecture. So we have still 15 minutes. So I'll start the second part of my lecture, which is actually the proper HRCT temporal bone. I took a lot of time to discuss the basics of the HRCT temporal bone and radiology software because as per my information, lot of radiology residents are also attending this webinar. So I thought it should be starting from the basics of even radiology also. So second chapter will start now, that is the journey through the normal temporal bone. So as I told you, whenever you receive any scan of the temporal bone, you should go all these structures when you see particular scan, starting right from the nasopharynx, then infratemporal fossa and its muscles, styloid process, stylomastoid foramen, mastoid tip, mastoid hair cell system, sigmoid plate and sigmoid sinus, jugular bulb, jugular foramen, dural plate, internal carotid canal, posterior bony meatal wall, scutum and the outer retic wall, anterior canal wall, temporomandibular joint, middle ear including hypo, meso and epitympanum, ossicles like malleus, incus, stapes suprastructure, tensor canal, then eustachian tube orifice, both the medial and lateral ends, inner ears, cochlea, semicircular canal and vestibule, interauditory meatus, petrous apex, facial nerve, vestibular and cochlear aqueduct. These many structures you should see in a particular scan whenever you get CD. So you should correlate always anatomy with the radiology. So radiology can be imagined and understood only when one knows a detailed anatomy of the temporal bone. So before starting HRCT of temporal bone, you should be thorough with the anatomy of the temporal bone. I'll advise to read a lot of temporal bone dissection books, and if you want, you can use dry temporal bones or 3D models available online to understand the anatomy of the temporal bone so that you can correlate with the radiology of the temporal bone. So normal scan, there are different methods to read the scans. Generally, I prefer to read from the lower to upper cuts. Why? Because most of the structures are easy to identify if you are looking from the lower to upper cuts, including facial nerve. And most of the centers, they print the films in this format. Means if you see the upper left corner of the scan, it will be the lowermost part of the scan, and then as you come down, it will be going up towards the petrous apex. So so that most print the films in this format, that is from lower to upper cuts, and I also prefer to read the scan like this. But there are some structures, if you read from upper to lower cuts, it's very easy to identify, like internal auditory meatus, semicircular canal, and facial nerve also becomes more easy if you are tracing from upper to lower cuts. So now we will start seeing the normal scan. I'll be moving my scan from lower to the upper cuts. So HRCT temporal bone is actually, according to me, it's a misnomer actually, or you can say it is an incomplete nomenclature. Why incomplete nomenclature? Because the non-temporal parts, like you can say mostly ignore parts, which are less likely to encounter during your routine ear surgeries, but are important in unusual extensions and lateral skull base cases, like the skull base. The skull base you can see in the HRCT temporal bone itself. So that it should be actually HRCT temporal bone and skull base, the full nomenclature. HRCT temporal bone looks like incomplete nomenclature. So what are the non-temporal parts which you can see in the HRCT temporal bone? Is the nasopharynx, then eustachian tube orifice. You can see the paranasal sinuses also most of the time if scan has gone anteriorly also. Then you can see the infratemporal fossa, foramen magnum. You can see the atlas and axis vertebra also. You can see foramen magnum of the skull and the other small foramina of the skull base. So these are all not actually direct part of the temporal bone or ear surgery, but still if you get HRCT temporal bone, you will get to see all these structures. So does CT scan show only bone? No, it's not true, because it is best for bone, but it shows everything. The best example is CT brain. See, brain is the soft tissue. Then why we are getting CT scan of brain done? Because it shows the soft tissue also and it shows the bone also. It is best for bone, but it shows all the soft tissues also. So we'll start with eustachian tube orifice and nasopharynx. So in the lowermost cut, you'll be able to see the eustachian tube orifice, nasopharynx, torus tuberis, and fossa rosenmuller. See carefully all these four structures. None of these structures will be having bone. Still, we can see this on the HRCT of the temporal bone. That's why I told HRCT is best for bone, but you can see the soft tissues also over this. So I told you should know the anatomy to find out how it looks radiologically. So this is the simple nasal endoscopy procedure, which is quite common. We can do easily in the OPD setup also. So what we do? So this is the right nostril of the patient. This is the septum in the midline. This is the inferior turbinate, right inferior turbinate. So how we do the first pass? We go along the floor of the nasal cavity to reach the nasopharynx. So I'm going along the floor of the nasal cavity to reach the nasopharynx. I reach to nasopharynx. So what we see in the nasopharynx? We see the eustachian tube, we see the torus tuberis, we see the adenoid area, and we see the fossa of Rosenmuller. So once you go along the inferior turbinate towards its posterolateral aspect, you will see the eustachian tube orifice. So this is the anatomy of this nasopharyngeal area. Once you know the anatomy of the nasopharyngeal area, same thing you have to find out in the scan. So we'll see in the scan. I'll open now one normal scan, though it is not completely normal. I'll tell you once that pathological part comes. So as I told you, once you open the scan, so this is for teaching purpose, so I will hide the patient data. We can keep the annotations also, I better remove. Okay, so this is the right temporal bone, as we are seeing from foot end of the patients. So you should set your window. So I told you it should be good to see. Sorry, we are going to see nasopharynx, so it should be actually bilateral temporal bone. So as I told you, so we will see the nasopharynx area. This is the inferior turbinate. This is the inferior turbinate bilaterally. I'll zoom it now. I'll bring it down. So this is the inferior turbinate. What we saw, if you go along the inferior turbinate posterolaterally, you should able to see the eustachian tube orifice. So this is the inferior turbinate. We have come in the choana. Posterolaterally, you are able to see the eustachian tube orifice. This is eustachian tube orifice medial end. Lateral end will be inside the middle ear, where it is will be bony end. It will be bony canal. While it is here, it is the cartilaginous part of the eustachian tube. So it is bounded posteriorly by the torus tuberis. So this is nothing but torus tuberis, and here is the eustachian tube orifice. This is inferior turbinate. As I told you, you will be able to see paranasal sinuses also most of the time. And this is posterior part of the septum. This is eustachian tube orifice medial end or cartilaginous part. This is torus tuberis. And if you go posterior to torus tuberis, you will see some grayish areas. This is posterolaterally. This is nothing but fossa of Rosenmuller. So we saw inferior turbinate, eustachian tube, torus tuberis, fossa of Rosenmuller, and all the structures are 3D structures actually. So if you go down, still this is eustachian tube orifice. If you go up, still this is also eustachian tube orifice. So it will not be in single cut, it will be in the multiple cuts, because all structures are 3D structures. Like this is torus tuberis in the lower part. If you come up, this is also torus tuberis in the upper part. So you should pick up one structure and you should trace it up and down. Why I am telling you, suppose if you got films printed for your nasopharyngeal carcinoma in this area, which is occluding your eustachian tube. Suppose this nasopharyngeal carcinoma is not at this level and some other level, some up level here. So what will happen if you that printed cuts, if it is printing like this, you may misjudge is that eustachian tube orifice is normal, but when you come up, it may be pushing this eustachian tube because of the carcinoma, it may be blocking. So that can be giving rise to effusion in the middle ear. So that it's important to trace each and every structure in all the possible sections of the scan. Don't just concentrate on one given particular film, because now see this sequence, it is having almost 201 images. We are looking at 23rd image of it. So, and this is only axial cut. So, and this is bilateral temporal bone, right is different, left is different. So it's not possible to print so many images in the films. If it is been printed in the films, it will become book of HRCT temporal bone for particular patient. So what radiologists and technicians they generally do, they will print the important cuts only according to them again. If you are not given them proper information, they will print whatever they want. That's what it's important to communicate with the radiologist, to tell them what you are looking. Suppose you are looking particularly of the eustachian tube in the nasopharynx, you are not informed them. What they will do, they will go to middle ear and they will print whole of the bony eustachian tube, because you are not informed them which part of the eustachian tube you are looking. So that is the importance of communication between ENT surgeon and radiologist. So we saw here the eustachian tube orifice, torus tuberis, and the fossa of Rosenmuller. So all these four structures we seen. Next is paranasal sinuses. Paranasal sinuses scan is easy to understand, as the plane of the surgery and scan coincides. What is the plane of surgery for the paranasal sinuses? In the coronal plane. what is the scan taken for the paranasal sinuses, CT-PNS? It's generally taken in the coronal planes. That's what. It's easy to understand the paranasal sinuses, but that is not our topic, so I'll be skipping that. So this is the disclaimer for my lecture, that if any online content I am using, it is for the educational and teaching purpose and not for commercial benefits in any way. So as I divided my lectures in many parts, I'll be taking it in one hour. So for today, I think we will stop here. From next time, we'll start with the infratemporal fossa, which is still non-temporal part. Then foramens of the skull base we have to see. And then we'll start the proper temporal bone, that is from the styloid process. So if anybody is having any doubts till now, they can ask me. Hello, madam.
Yes, sir. Our VC sir is here.
Oh, sir.
And I could see Dr. Vijayendra sir.
Yeah,
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Hello.
Hello, Satish sir. Good
Hello,
evening.
good evening, Nilesh. Congratulations, and I could join only the end of the talk, but I heard that there's a lot of demand. I think we had to refuse a lot of people, and unfortunately, we could admit only 100. And I'm sorry for from the department side. I think we'll do some arrangements to include more people. I think the demand is more than 300 people. In the sense, ENT faculty have or radiologists also might have made interested. Congratulations, Nilesh. It's a wonderful. I know that you are expert in the area of temporal bone. I think our Vijayendra must have, I think the mentor must have made you expert in radiology also.
Yes, sir.
Congratulations. And already we have decided that this series will continue. I think it may be in the initial session, we'll be having radiology in ENT.
Yes, sir.
I want your cooperation to make it more lively and very informative.
Yes,
I think we'll start with the temporal bone. Later, we'll go to paranasal sinus, head and neck, CT, like particularly parapharyngeal area, parapharyngeal spaces, skull base. I think skull base will be done by you only. Anyway, the series, I request my colleagues from the Department of ENT, make it a wonderful session for particularly we are going through unprecedented situation, as you all know, because of the COVID. This is the new normal, virtual education. I think we will not leave any stone unturned or to see that education will continue through online mode, and will from the university side, Nitya University, we will provide the best of the facility for to the Department of ENT to make it a continuous CME program in various aspects of ENT diseases. Thank you very much. I understand that Professor Dr. Vijayendra also has joined. Vijayendra, hello. Rajeshwar, Vijayendra join agidara?
Hello. Yeah. Hello.
Namaskar, sir. Namaskara.
Congratulations, Vice Chancellor. I'm very happy.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Vijayendra, thank you very much for initiating, or probably the first talk by your center. I'm really happy that that it has been started with a big bang.
Okay.
And,
Yeah. So much of
good
demand
response.
is there.
I was told by Rajeshwari that very good response.
Yes.
And let us continue this tempo.
Sure.
Thank you.
We will cooperate.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Nilesh, for a wonderful lecture.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions, madam, regarding the basics of this lecture? I'll just see one chat box. So I'll just tell briefly what we are going to covered in the next few lecture series. So today we saw the basics of HRCT temporal bone and few parts I just started. From next lecture we will see the proper radiology of the temporal bone. First normal temporal bone CT scan we'll see in the next lecture. Then further that in the third lecture we will see the pathology of the temporal bone. And fourth lecture also I required half of the lecture for the pathology of the temporal bone including MRI. And rest of the half lecture time we will keep for if any particular pathology doubts any ENT or radiologist is asking for. So that we can do in the fourth, that is the last lecture for the half of the time.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Raguraj is
Raguraj.
Raguraj is there.
Hello, sir.
Namaskara, Raguraj.
Sir, good evening, sir. Sir, very good basic lecture on HRCT temporal bone. And it's actually very good for both radiologist and ENT because many things have been communicated so properly that one thing is the radiology and ENT correlation is very important. Either the radiologist should speak to the ENT specialist or ENT specialist should directly communicate. And the clinical details makes us so easy to diagnose a condition when we are in doubt, especially when we are thinking of cholesteatoma or a chronic automastoiditis. Very important. And second point is that this first time this struck to my mind that when an ENT specialist sees on a table, so it actually goes from lateral to medial in a sagittal plane. So what we see concentrate most of the time is on axial and coronal images. So I think now onwards I also should change my orientation and attitude by seeing these images. And the next part is basically to see it on a CD or a monitor, because otherwise we will not have that continuity or continuous pixels will not be seen. So many minute findings because microstructure, so we might miss totally. So that's why important to see on a CD or a monitor before we conclude anything. An excellently covered basic lecture on HRCT, including techniques and thing. So I thank Dr. Nilesh Mahajan for this very good basic lecture, and I also wish him all the best for subsequent lectures.
Thank you very much, sir, for your kind words.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think we will conclude here today, and we'll end today. And next week, next same time, 6 to 7, I think we can accommodate more number of people that time. We will do it either in the YouTube or in the some other way, Zoom Meet or something. Thank you.
Sure, madam. Thank you, madam. Thank you, Satish sir. Thank you, Rajeshwari madam.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir. Nilesh, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
VC sir
Adil
and Madam.
Thank you, Raghuraj sir.